Live? Are we good to go? Are we doing it? Hopefully we're doing it. Test. 1, 2. Hello? Oh, speak words in the chat if you can see the stream. Refresh if it's not working. Hopefully it's all there. Hopefully it's all perfectly visible. Okay, that is going to be very, very annoying if it tries to prioritize this over the chat window. I hope it doesn't do that. Oh, it is. Oh boy. Okay, one sec. That sucks. That's exactly what I didn't want. It's trying really hard to fight me. Give me one sec. Okay. Is it good? Do we see it? Hopefully we see it. Okay. We're gonna be doing test, by the way. 1, 2, test. Should I be turning down the volume? Probably. Let's turn that down a little bit. Okay. So can everybody hear me? Are we good to go? It's good. Okay. Good enough for me. Let's get to work. It's been a long time since we've seen this because we've been very busy porting Trick or Treat over. So Bippy has not been seeing much love as of late since we've needed to focus on that. But yeah, we're gonna clean them up a little bit. We're gonna be doing some work on cleaning up some Bippy sprites. Got a good amount still left on this. So, oh, yep, right there. So let's start cleaning this up, and we'll hop to that. Should probably turn this music down a little bit more. It's way too loud. Okay, there we go. No, Trick or Treat, it's come up in a couple streams now, but I'm okay to repeat. Trick or Treat's coming out next year now. We sent a thing out to people on Patreon a few weeks back about it, but we may be able to actually put in online play if we delay it, on top of potential for console ports. Just a much more stable game, so we're delaying it a year, which it feels shitty because it's like we've already spent so much time on this thing anyways. Why? But then at the same time, it's because it's hard to take a simple game and just be satisfied. We want to do a lot with it, and this is opening the door to that. So if we can get online play in, I think that'll do a lot to make me not feel as bad about it, because I don't think we're doing too much with it. I feel like we should be able to pull more off with it. It's just a little twin-stick shooter. Should be a bigger game. We're not going to be charging much for it anyways. It's going to be a pretty cheap game, but still. Will there be idle animations in Bippy or in Trick or Treat? Because in Bippy, yes, absolutely. He already has one. Bippy. Oh boy, Bippy. I could go through a bunch of these animations if you wanted. Bippy, we're kind of doing overkill work on Bippy compared to Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat was meant to be a little simple game. Bippy is much, much bigger. It's not the same thing. Trick or Treat was something that was supposed to be made in a month to begin with because we were under a company, and we ended up wanting to take it back to polish it, and we kind of lost the last year to really do much for it because we've been so busy. But now that we're delaying it a year, we're going to be dedicating almost full attention to it, probably in the next month. Local co-op. Oh yeah, absolutely. There's been local co-op and Trick or Treat since the beginning. Online play is what we really want to get in, though, because it's like, okay, yeah, that's great you have local, but online is a big, big deal, and ever skipping out on that never feels right. But we might be able to do it now, so delay will be worth it. It'll be a good thing. But Bippy is completely different in terms of scale compared to Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat's going to probably be less than $10 when it comes out. It's not going to be that huge of a game. It's going to have length to it for sure. There's, I think, 5 levels in the arcade mode, and all the levels are broken into different paths and everything, so you can play through them differently each time. And then after beating the normal arcade mode, if you can do that, because we set it up like an old arcade game. It's one touch death and everything. So you have lives, you have continues. If you can play through the arcade mode, you unlock the hard mode, arcade mode, which is essentially a completely different game. It's not the same levels at all. They're all completely redesigned. Tile set looks different, enemies are different, music's different, everything is pretty much different. So pretty much 5 more levels with branching paths and everything, and it's significantly more challenging. There's all that, there's some bonus modes and everything too. There's going to be a decent amount of content there, but it's not enough that I feel like it's worth like even $10 necessarily, because it's just a really basic little arcade shooter. But Bippy's completely different. Bippy is a big game. It's gonna have a lot there in terms of movement options, functionality, and in terms of animation. That's the biggest thing about Bippy. Bippy already has several hundred frames of animation done. I need to really turn down these Windows noises, don't I? Let me turn that down and then turn this up. Is that any better? I should be a little bit better. Let me turn this down a little bit more. Turn that down a little bit. There we go. Bippy already has a few hundred frames of animation done, and funnily enough, even though we have that much done of Bippy, it's not actually towards too much. We have like an idle animation, we have a walking animation, we have a jumping animation, falling and everything. We have all the basics there. Climbing. But there is so much left to still do, and it's because Bippy's 2D animation is not like how a lot of other games would do it, where, for example, how this is categorized on screen. I don't know how well you see it, but like, oh, here's the stopped animation, here's the walking animation. It's not as simple as that, where you're just put into different states, so it's like, oh, he's in the walking state, so here's the walking animation. Bippy has a ton of different transitional animations, so if you're in your idle animation and then you start walking, even though you're put into the walking state, like that's what the game recognizes you're doing now. You're not walking. You're holding right. Okay, you're walking now. Even though it recognizes that, it also takes the last animation and compares the new animation that's supposed to be playing. So it goes, okay, you were in your idle animation and now you're in your walking animation. So it plays like a transitional animation to make it look smoother. So here's Bippy. Let me see if I can find it even. Where is it? It's landing. Might not even be on this thing. That might just be a PNG saved somewhere. A set of PNG images. Is it even here? It might not be here. I don't think it's in here. Nah, I guess it's not here. Point is, Bippy has a lot of little transitional animations. So when you go from your idle animation to your walking animation, for example, here's like 5 frames of Bippy leaning forward, getting ready to walk. And so it looks a lot smoother because, oh, this was designed and drawn coming out of that animation. And we have that for almost everything. There's even like a turning animation for being in the air, which goes very quick. A lot of animations are animated at 60 FPS. But we have animation for almost just every little thing you can do. There's a lot of animation packed in. And because of that, it looks very, very smooth in motion. Maybe too smooth. That might actually be a problem. We might have to tone it back a little bit, but we have it for almost everything. We have a ton of animation in there for pretty much every action. Not to mention like I've talked about this a lot in previous streams, but I can't show it here, but when Bippy grabs a ladder, for example, there's a few ways he can grab the ladder. You could grab the ladder by... That was very loud, wasn't it? You can grab a ladder by standing just directly in front of it, and he has an animation for that, which is very quick. But if you're standing to the left or right of the ladder, like you're just barely overlapping and you hold up, Bippy has an animation for swinging himself onto the ladder to be centered with it. It's a longer animation, but the game will actually, it'll disjoint your sprite from the actual hitbox and then ease the sprite over to the hitbox during the animation. So what that does is you see him grab the ladder from the side and everything. He is like locked into place at the beginning of the animation, but you're free to move. You can still climb up and down the ladder while that animation's playing out. And even though you don't see Bippy doing it, as he's snapping onto the ladder, he'll ease himself up to where you were moving. So no time gets lost. You don't have to wait for this animation to play out for you to move or anything. You can move, and it's smoothened and everything, and it makes it look natural as a movement. It doesn't look weird or anything. You don't have to wait for the climbing animation to finish until you are on the ladder and now you can move. You don't have to wait for any of that. You can move the second you hit up and you're on the ladder. Doesn't matter if there's this long startup for this animation of him swinging himself onto the ladder. You can just move. And the game does a lot of that. So we have a ton of transitional animations like that, like idle animation, walking animation, or like walking into jumping, stuff like that. It's walking into pre-jump into jump. We have lots and lots of animations like that, but the game will speed them up and do different things with them depending on how you're kind of going about your movement. So if you're being very quick, you're not going to see all the animations play out fully. It's going to skip over like every other frame or only hit specific keyframes that we mark for it. And because of that, movement gets to be snappy, gets to be immediate, even though there's a lot of animation. You still get to get a good feel with the animation. You're not going to be like having jerky responses to movement because, oh, this was a really long animation and you're trying to interrupt it now. You're not going to have any of that. It tries to smoothen it over and make it look okay and sort of natural. But Julian has been very, very helpful with all that. Julian is amazing with doing animation, so putting our all into it is something we want to do. We want to try as hard as we can with this sort of thing, especially because you don't get to see that sort of thing too often in games. You don't get to see a lot of effort put into 2D animation. The way that we do the animations, whoever just asked that, was it them dubs? The way that it gets drawn, any smears, not any that are too exaggerated, but we have, like, for example, there we got some squash and stretch on some animations. Which is it? This only kind of does it. Is there a good example one? Oh, right there, yeah, there's a smear. I still have to clean this up. This is Bippy grabbing onto a ladder from the side, and you can see he smears his way on like that. We have it here and there, but it's not heavily exaggerated. It's done very subtly, especially because that animation runs at 60, I think. So it goes by very, very quick. But yeah, we have stuff like that. Julian knows what he's doing with animation. Julian is one of the most capable animators I think I've ever witnessed in my entire life. I'm very glad to be working with him, because I suck at doing this. He's been very helpful. Ugh, that looks terrible. I'm gonna have to do a second pass of cleaning this up. It's been so long since I've done this too. I feel bad how long it's been since I last worked on this. But if Trick or Treat is underwhelming to people, I kind of understand. Bippy is meant to be like the bigger game that we're going to be doing. Trick or Treat is a thing that we were doing for another company but want to polish up and at least finish. So everything that comes from that could go towards Bippy. We can make a bigger budget, potentially hire on helping hands and everything. Make the most that we can out of this game. And Bippy also is not exactly like... Because a lot of people have like dream projects they want to do. Bippy's not even exactly that. We have a lot of projects planned out. Bippy's kind of a middle of the road project. It's a single player game, so it's not going to be as difficult to structure and get working just right. It's going to take a few years to make for sure, though. It's not going to be a quick little thing. Trick or Treat needs another year. This is going to need like 2.5 years. Trick or Treat isn't for a company anymore. It's a personal game. It was going to be for a company, and they were going to publish it, and I already had plenty of... I've discussed this. I didn't end up getting paid for about a year of work while I was there because they were hemorrhaging money left and right, and we're sort of just hoping to get people involved and just promise them royalties, and that's it. And the thing they were working on didn't even end up going anywhere anyway, so it just was not worth it. It's a big waste of time, but oh well. I'm kind of glad it didn't go under them because we would have lost the rights to a Trick or Treat then for pretty much nothing. What do you think of Nightmare Cops? Nightmare Cops looks fantastic. It looks really, really good. Corey's been doing phenomenal animation work for it. Jeff's been doing real great art and everything too. I think they're both animating, but they're doing a ton with that visually. The gameplay itself sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I have been since I first heard about it. I've really been looking forward to it. But this is the kind of stuff Julian and I want to be doing the most anyways. Game stuff is what really matters. Well, Julian wants to be doing a lot of animation work, which he can work into this. I guess it's a mixed bag. Julian really wants to do animation, and he really wants to do game stuff too. I want to do game stuff probably the most, but music I think is the second thing I want to do, which I have zero practice in, and I'm hoping I can do that someday. Oh. Now Bippy's single player, it's not multiplayer. Trick or Treat is multiplayer. It's a co-op. Right now it's only offline, but since we're porting the code over, reason we're doing that is not just for the option to have console ports of Trick or Treat, but now it's also, we can probably have online play. We're in a big process to get that going, which would be very, very good if we can get that going. Trick or Treat, I think I'm always going to feel weird about because I've even been like told this by people numerous times, and I see it, I get it, I feel it. It isn't necessarily that interesting because it's just a little arcade shooter, and yeah, it is. It is. It's just a little arcade shooter. I understand people not being interested in it. That's why I've said over and over again, if you're not interested in Trick or Treat, that's fine. If it's not a game that looks interesting to you, I do not expect you to purchase it. In fact, I've said this probably every single stream. If it doesn't look interesting to you, just don't buy it. Don't feel committed to doing it just because we're working on it. That was very loud, wasn't it? I should probably be spotting these donations too. I have my screen set up all weird. Let's read a couple of these. There are a few, I think. Where were we? Thank you, Kazran, for $1. They said Bippy looks real good. Thank you, Kazran. Thank you, Spector, with a Q, for $15. I'm gonna stop watching you make games so I can watch you play them until I pass out. Much love. Well, you should spend the time making games. I should probably just start saying that to people. If people are interested in this sort of thing, you really should look into it. It's easier now than ever to just hop into doing this sort of thing. Not to mention the game industry has opened its doors widely. Anyone can make a game now and get it out there in the same market as bigger titles. It's probably one of the most open industries I can think of. It really is something worth checking out if it's something that's interested you. Just read up some wikis, start with some beginner software, just read up some wikis, look at examples, and you can probably get into it. Matt was trying to get into it a while back. He was trying to learn stuff with Game Maker, which is very easy. It's very easy to hop into. We're also still trying to figure out how to exactly do shading for Bippy, because Bippy, right now I'm just cleaning up the sprites with basic flat colors for the most part. I wonder how this is going to look on stream. Yeah, let me see if I can do this. Switch this over. There we go. Can we... it didn't match the screen perfect. Can I... that zooms it out too much. Oh, that stinks. Can I get that kind of on screen, I guess? That's where we're sort of at. That was like the last attempt we had at shading it, but I don't really feel that great about it. I want to stylize it more than that. This is a basic attempt at shading that we did a while back. I don't think it's that great. We're still trying to figure out what to do with it graphically. Or if we even just stick to the flat color thing like this and give it like a Paper Mario 1 sort of look. We're trying to figure out what to do. Characters are going to be more high contrast though than backdrops, which are going to be more faded. Which is a very, very important thing to do because you want to be able to tell characters apart from the backdrop. Oh, Baby Driver was fantastic. I really enjoyed Baby Driver. I had a really good time seeing it, and I actually want to go back and see it again. I really enjoyed it. It's a great movie. It was nice being able to go to the movie theater and see something just that entertaining. It's been a while. I know a lot of people are in the mindset of like, oh yeah, everyone's talking about it. Fuck, whatever. It really is good. It really is a good film. It's not the perfect movie or anything, but in terms of a movie in a theater right now, this is one you should be checking out. Absolutely. No, I didn't get to see Spider-Man yet. Julian's been having that little discussion with me because he's saying like, are you actually interested in Spider-Man, or are you only going to see it because people are telling you to see it? And I think I've just kind of admitted at this point, yes, I think I am only going to see it because people keep telling me to go see it. It doesn't seem like something that's going to interest me. But I'd like to be proven wrong. I'd like to be like it probably is a decent film, but superhero movies just never worked for me, so I don't know how I'm going to feel going to see it. About Wonder Woman, I just thought Wonder Woman was okay. I didn't think it was anything that special. I thought it was a half okay movie about a war, and then half bad superhero movie, so I wasn't really too into it. She's not even the main character either. She's very disconnected from all of it. The end scene with her, I don't even care about her being there. I care about everything else that's going on off to the side because that's what's been established throughout the film. Her character is that since she was a little child, she wanted to fight and hurt things. And at the end of the movie, she fights and hurts the guy. I don't think it was a bad film, though. For its length and everything, too. I didn't even notice at any point that it was as long as it was. So, it was an okay movie. I just wasn't that into it. like the fight scenes. Ugh. I couldn't do... The fight scenes were actually just irritating me because the slow motion thing they did over and over and over again. It was becoming frustrating. I'm wondering if that was like test audiences or something were saying like, it's moving too fast, I can't keep up with it. So every single action sequence of Wonder Woman is slow motion whenever anything's about to happen. She swings the sword and then, oh, slow motion. Hang on. Ooh, oh, I hit him. It's a lot of that. They did that since the beginning of the film. They exhausted it within the first, like, minute. When they show all the Amazons fighting each other. I think the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films him. You know, I was talking to Julian about that. I'm not sure. I need to watch them again. I remember thinking they were okay when I was younger, but even then, I remember just being sort of in the middle with them. So, I don't know. I'd have to go see them again. I'm hoping to actually get a lot of work done this week. We recorded a whole bunch today. So there's plenty on the way. We recorded a one-off that's going to be pretty fun. We might actually turn into a series. We'll see. Yep, the Lady Bacon. That was that was the one where I was just thinking to myself, like, they're going to do this with everything, aren't they? It was when she flips off the horse. It was really weird looking, too. It was a really weird blend of how they were using the CG. It really stood out at the beginning, especially. But I don't know. I'm sure for DC standards, that's an amazing film. That's an amazing film for DC standards. And for a superhero movie, that's a pretty good film. I just don't typically care for superhero films, so as an actual like movie sit down sort of thing, it doesn't do too much for me, at least. Oh, you don't do that for his ears, you dummy. You got a weird splotch here that you're gonna need to clean. Thicken this outline. I don't know why you thinned it. It's been so long. There's like certain rules to how you're supposed to clean this up. Yeah, that's what I was gonna figure. There's so many ways they could have taken that ending and they did nothing with it. She's not even really in the movie, and in the end, she kills evil bad man, and you think then, like, okay, nothing happened because this is... Because she already is having that struggle with, like, oh, are men just like this? Is this just the whole thing with humankind? Is this how it all is? She's already having, like, those conflicting feelings. They could have just ended it with that point where she stabs him and realizes, like, oh, maybe everything that we've been told, all of this, isn't actually a thing, and this is just... There are people who are like this. But no, the evil mustache man, who they establish in the middle of the movie as very clearly being the bad man because he calls in to tell him not to do the thing for no reason and makes a long shot held on him looking angry with the phone. They need to have him come in and do a Dragon Ball Z fight with her. Oh, also the plot that you were following for like the past hour, that's over there in the corner. If you care about that. It was a silly ending. No, they do say all men have choice, but that's what's conflicting about it too, is that they also throw that in with the bad guy being there. That, oh no, there was the little influence, but also man has it in them to be influenced this way, and they can just be bad people. you don't need this fight then. You don't need this character. You don't need this whole thing here, because you already could have easily have established that without this. It's a very, very silly scene at the end. It's because they need a final fight. I get it. Oh, is this song in Rev 2? If Octopimp was here, he could tell me. I'd be really happy if the song is in Rev 2. This is always one of my favorites, and I wasn't too happy with Milia's new theme song. Leader Alien Avatar ever make an appearance? Nope. Our games are very separate from our video content. Yeah, I played Blaze Blue. I was not into it. I tried my hardest to get into it too, because I love Guilty Gear to death, and I remember thinking to myself too, like, oh, I mean, it's not Guilty Gear, but same people and everything, and it's very obviously trying to sort of be like Guilty Gear, so it could probably be fun if I get into it, but it's just slower. Characters are not very fun for the most part. It feels, I don't know, it feels really dry in terms of style. There's not much to it. So I was pretty disappointed by all of that. But Xrd is fantastic. I had a great time with it. I really love Yellow Roman. I just said Roman. Yellow Roman Cancel is a really good addition. It's really a lot of fun to mess with. Things like that. It's, I haven't gotten to play, though. I haven't gotten to play Revelator, because I don't have friends who are in fighting games. So I never got to play Revelator because of that. I had no one to play it with. And I was too busy with work. And I never got to play Rev 2. I want to play Rev 2. Very, very bad. No, we didn't even want to really draw a connection between Oni plays and our games. I'm sad that we did the Patreon just because that's what it's done now. We were actually going to release, for example, Trigger or Treat was just going to be released without anything being said from like, oh, look, our friends worked on this or anything like that. We're hoping to just kind of let it happen. It would get to exist as its own thing, and if people didn't enjoy it, that would mean then that people didn't enjoy it for what it is, and we could take that and be like, okay, that's acceptable. That's good to know that people just didn't enjoy it because they got to play it, they experienced it, they didn't like it. When things start getting introduced to create more of a bias there, it makes it more frustrating, especially not because of people disliking it because of a connection, but it's more upsetting when it's people in a position feeling inclined to enjoy it because of the connection, that they feel like, oh, well, I want to support them, so it's good. I really want people to just be honest about that sort of thing. I was happy about that today. I told Chris that. I even said, like, Chris, I saw that you installed the beta build on your desktop, and Chris, I'd like it if you could be as brutal as possible with criticism. And right away, he had some stuff to say, and I was very, very thankful he did. I'm glad he told us things like that to potentially work on. Criticism is a valuable thing. You don't want to sacrifice it. Yeah, Trigger Treat got greenlit way back. Like, it's probably like 2 years ago it got greenlit. And that was when we were making it for a company. And they ended up just saying like, yeah, just go back to working on the other thing. Whatever. So we were trying to get it out in a month, and they just dropped support of it. So it was just like, okay, you know what? Forget that then. We're going to delay it, and we're actually going to try with it. Because if we're going to have to release this thing on our own, we're not going to have it be poor quality. So we took it back for a year, but then during that window is when we also... We started getting ready to come out here and everything. Julian already was out here. I wasn't out here. I had to get ready to come out here and everything. I came out, and then we started doing Oni Plays. And because of all that, it's like, okay, we're going to have to push it back another year. But Oni Plays ended up eating up a lot of time with editing. I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be. And I was hoping we were still going to hit the end of this year, but after this, like what ended up happening, where it was like, oh, we might be able to get support to properly code netplay and everything. We might be able to do console ports. Hell, we could do so much with this game now if we just recode it in this. So it's why we're delaying it one more year, just so we can finally do everything we wanted to do with it from the get-go. We didn't even really get time to work on it as soon as I came out to California. We lost a lot of that time. So technically, I'd say its dev cycle has been like a year, even though it's been about 2.5 years. And it's disappointing too, because it's just a little twin stick shooter. It shouldn't have taken this long, and I'm embarrassed by that, because I've worked on much larger scale projects with people before, and it wasn't as messy as this. But it's because we've been juggling so much. The last year has moved very quick, and it's been very strange. How did you come up with Bippy's design? I drew him. I just thought of... I don't know. That's a weird one to... I don't know how you answer that necessarily. I always liked... What was it? I liked Knuckle Joe and Kirby, I remember. I like a lot of different sorts of games, like... I always think hand-to-hand combat is like the coolest thing ever. I always really enjoy that, and it's why characters in games who get to just fight with their fists where everyone else is fighting with weapons and everything, I always really like that. So I wanted to... That's why I wanted to opt for like a boxer character. And typically in a lot of older Japanese games I can remember playing, they always do like the headgear thing with boxing gloves, so that was just kind of the basis of the design. I just wanted to go for something kind of simple. And I actually, because people brought that one up, was the Klonoa one. I actually forgot about that character. I was thinking of, who was it? There's the, what the heck was it? The one boss in Mega Man X, there's a kangaroo who has boxing gloves, and he has the headgear, and he has like angry eyes because of how the headgear cuts his head off. There's a lot of characters who have an appearance like that, and that was one I thought people were gonna start pointing out a lot. Was like, oh, well, look at that one. Isn't that kind of like it? But it was just a lot of different trending themes I would see in character designs in games for like boxer characters. So that's all there kind of was to it, and just kind of keeping it simple. I never want to make designs too complicated. I always want to kind of keep them simple, have them stand out in that sort of way. Not have to do anything like that either, like let me exaggerate something, let me give them a giant object and that's the basis of their design. Never anything like that either. Just keeping something kind of tame. I hope Bippy doesn't have unnecessary blood. It's a strange complaint, but there isn't blood in it, so you don't have to worry about that. Trick or Treat does have blood, though. By default, it's green, but you can make it red. It's green just because green looks spookier. Should probably shape this out a little bit more. No, Bippy's not gonna have blood. Bippy's supposed to be kind of like old platformers anyways. It's supposed to have kind of like a Taito look to it. I also don't I don't want I don't want the blood and Trick or Treat to clash too much with the backdrop, so you get like lost in the room or like bump into stuff from all that, because there's a lot of games where they go overboard with Gibbs and stuff staying on the floor. So blood and Trick or Treat, I already wrote a shader to kind of simulate how Sega Saturn transparency wasn't true alpha transparency. They could do it, but they usually have to do tricks because alpha transparency, since there's so many different rendering layers on the Saturn, alpha transparency would eat whatever object was behind it typically, outside of masking through one of the background layers. It was a weird thing to get working, right? A lot of games had different solutions for it. I think the craziest is Burning Rangers, where it would kind of scan in chunks what was on screen. It would find where your character was and then render a bunch of blocks around whatever fire effects were on screen. So the fire would always be getting masked out and these weird blocky chunks around your character, so they would never be overlapping your character. But Saturn was weird about alpha transparency, and typically if you're just using what they had built in, because you're on a CRT anyways at that time, you're not going to notice. They had it so it would dither anything that was alpha, and because they did it that way, I actually really like the look of it too. We're doing that for a lot of stuff in Trick or Treat. I have to rewrite the shaders still, but by doing that, it means that when there's blood on the ground, it's not alpha, so there's like all these sprites overlapping, looking weird. It's dithered onto the ground on top of alpha, so you can see the ground very clearly, but you can also see like where there's blood on the ground because it's dithered onto the ground and everything. It makes it easy to see stuff while playing it. Would you date me? I'm spoken for, sorry. What do you think of video game Dunkirk? I don't know why someone keeps spamming the chat about that. No, I've never seen that movie, sorry. Donkey, if that's what the joke was, I like Donkey's videos a lot. Do you agree with this critics video? Absolutely. Yeah, it was pretty spot on. And the fact that so many people were trying to shame him for that video kind of goes to show too where all that's kind of standing. Levels and environments Whippy's fighting in. There's a lot of ideas. I don't want to just go too much into it because a lot of it is probably going to end up reworked or potentially just not used. Screenshot of God handwriting. That image is ancient. The point about different reviewers does say something though, and they'll get people involved on reviews in a lot of situations where it's people who don't have any particular interest in the said game. They'll do that a lot too, and you don't get that out of it because you don't really know much about the reviewer. And that's why with the YouTube channels, it's usually much more personal, and you can get an easier read out of it than something like those websites. Not to mention, this wasn't really in the Donkey video, but you have to keep in mind these people are paid to do this, so they will be handed games and they have to just sit there for like a single day, because pre-release copies, usually you end up getting them like a week or 2 weeks in advance. So you have to just sit down essentially in a day or two, finish the game, and then try to speak about it. And it's why in some cases you don't even get them finishing the game, or you'll get them just lying about shit too. Sometimes there's weird agendas where you'll see like footage and you can see that they're intentionally trying to kind of screw around to take some points off of it, or the discussion on the game sounds very imbalanced and it makes it sound like, oh, they probably don't like this. That I'm glad he showcased that at the end, because that is the thing they will do a lot, where it's like, yeah, they probably really don't like this game, and then they give it a good rating. Just stuff like that. It's okay. I'm sure no one will ever write anything about our games. I'm sure we're blacklisted all over the place for jokes we've made. Or honesty, one of the things. We'll do it. It's understandable. I completely understand. That off. Fix the coloring on his chin. Coloring on his chin. I mean, I have to... Are you talking about this right here? That I didn't do this yet? Because that's a part of the style right now, is to do that. Black is used when it's something that's being obscured that's behind him. And we'll do this little bit right there to kind of taper and transition to the next one. Probably turn up the music a little. These volume levels are inconsistent, I'm sorry. I turned it up a little bit. Beat Sunshine, I don't think any of that matters. Everyone wants that to be a bigger deal than it was. And it's completely irrelevant. I think we've made the thing I would say that I feel like would probably be blacklisted from a lot of websites that they wouldn't want to review anything we've ever done or acknowledge it, is because we've just made fun of like game critics in the past anyways. We've made jokes about during Oni plays. It's the sort of thing that I'm sure a lot of them just wouldn't want to have any of that. They'd be like, oh no, they made a joke about this kind of thing. No. That too, just the nature of jokes that we've made. I'm sure it would keep a lot of people away. No, I haven't tried a Sprite yet. I really do need to. I keep hearing good things about it. Even Chris had it. I was surprised. I need to try it. No, that's fine, Beat Sunshine. A lot of other people are doing that. That's fine. Do that. Do that. I wonder what's going up tomorrow. I really hope the one-off we recorded today goes up soon because I enjoyed it a good amount. It was fun. Battle Network I was always kind of in the middle with. The chip system I'm not really big on. If I was going to play a Game Boy Advance Mega Man game, I would always opt for the Zero series. Those games are a lot of fun. Really, really challenging too, which is my favorite part. They kind of designed it with that in mind. Like, hey, here's a game for people who like playing a Zero, and we're going to make it designed around that, so it's going to be very, very challenging. This is for people who were familiar with that and probably get a kick out of a really good challenge. And I really like that about Mega Man Zero. It's a lot of fun. I always thought this was one of the best songs from Donkey Kong Country 2. I never hear people bring this one up. I really like this one. I remember even thinking that at the time when I was fresh out of high school. It was like a tradition for me to play this every year, fresh out of high school during the springtime. And I always remember the stage with the fog and everything, and just kind of the springtime air because there was no air conditioning or heater or anything in the room whenever I was playing it. I just remember that feeling while playing it, and it's like a memory now, which is strange. It's a strange thing to think about that because it's one of those memories where it's like you're creating this as a memory. I remember that happening in high school. I remember playing what was it that I played again? Played something on N64 again, and I said to myself like, wow, this came out over 10 years ago now. Not over 10 years ago. I guess it would have been exactly 10 years ago. I remember saying that. I was playing something on N64 while I was in high school. I was like, wow, that came out 10 years ago. Boy, has time gone by. And now I think back, and when I said that, that was almost 10 years ago. So that being put in perspective is not very fun. And it's the kind of thing that I even remember when I said that in high school. I just thought to myself, like, I'm gonna go back and reflect on this now in 10 years, and yep, I sure did. It's a thing you say, and then as you think that, you're just realizing like, oh, this is gonna become a memory, isn't it? Because it's putting in perspective how much time has passed. So then you're gonna look back on this now once time passes, and yep, that's what happened. Oof, I can't believe high school was not long ago. Where did the time go? Yeah, I remember Command Mission. I remember seeing demos of it at stores, and I just never was interested because Mega Man are not games I play for story. I wasn't really interested. Not to mention that was already the point where Mega Man X was. That series did not have very good games attached to it anymore. So. Yeah, I'm 26, and so is Julian, and so is Chris. We were all born in the same year. Oh, Jet Set Radio is a lot of fun, Dustin. If you've never played it, it's a very tame, enjoyable experience. And Future, I think, plays better, but I do like the arcade sort of nature of the first game. That there's a timer, so it's kind of like a score attack in a sense. You want to make most of the brief amount of time you have. But visually, I enjoy how colorful and how the designs look in the first Jet Set Radio. I think more than Future. Although Future does have some really nice looking environments. I was disappointed because when we played Future on Oni Plays, there were a lot of comments saying like, "Oh, this game's ugly," and I just remember thinking to myself like, "Oof, are we at that point? Do we at a point that people can't appreciate this?" There's some really nice choices with the area designs in that. Some real good color choices too, in certain locations. I think it's because of the one area that we were doing so much of that people were probably thinking that. I would have liked to have gone back to Jet Set Radio Future, but Chris wasn't really into it, so oh well. It's fine. Listen, Pangolin, it's great if that's your thought right now, but once you build up an audience, you're gonna feel like a fool for thinking that way, because everyone will give you a hard time for it. I keep getting in positions like that where I just start like second guessing everything I say. Because I remember I was trying to talk to people about that at one point, was the whole Jet Set Radio Future thing. I was curious what people really didn't enjoy about how it looked, because that was the first time I've ever heard that. I've never actually heard that once in my life before, that Jet Set Radio Future was a game that people did not enjoy visually. And I think a lot of it was just we were playing the opening area, so it didn't make it look anything too stand out. Okay. You can go make the copy paste in one of those threads, I'm sorry. I'd like to be able to read the chat. You see now people are reacting to Nidhogg. It's true. It's true. If you don't like how the characters look in Nidhogg 2, I understand not liking the joint rotation animation, because that does not look good. But those backgrounds in Nidhogg 2 are gorgeous. Like they look really detailed. They look really nice. There's some clear work going into that game, even if you don't necessarily care for the art style. But there's a lot of that just being shot down outright. I get not caring for the characters. I understand that. Even though they don't necessarily bug me in Nidhogg 2, I get why people wouldn't care for that. But there was a huge argument of like, oh, the original had this really eerie atmosphere, and it was very deliberate with its look, and it was supposed to be. It really was just like programmer art. It wasn't some big deliberate thing. It's why the sequel looks the way it does, is because they're actually putting money into having an artist come on board and bring out a look for it. It's not very smooth looking. I'll have to correct some of this when we do a second pass. That's going to be the worst, is we're going to be doing second passes a lot of this, just to clean it up a little bit more. I get why people don't like how the character's looking too, though, because I'm sort of in the middle with that. I'm not outright offended by it, but my biggest complaint is doing the animations for the characters like that. That's upsetting to me. I don't like how that looks. I don't know. Rotation joint based animation like that with pixel art, so you get those weird janky bits to it, since it's nearest neighbor rotations and everything. I'm not big on that. Yeah, didn't they add alternate characters now too? Because everyone was just complaining about the Naked Muppet Man. I saw that they added more characters onto it. Also, anyone who said that X2 has a terrible soundtrack, there's some good songs. This is a really nice one. Crystal Snail is a boss that's not any fun, but he has a fun stage. Has some good music. Oh, man, X2 is a really fun game. I forgot how much I really like X2. X2 is a lot of fun. Yeah, exactly. Ping, no. In almost every single way, I would take Nidhogg 2 over how the original Nidhogg looked graphically. And it's already a really simple game anyways, so doing that with it, like polishing it up more, nothing wrong with that. I don't think I would ever really fight for downplaying the art back to where it was originally. There we go. Ugh, that looks really gross. What the hell did I do? Ugh, I gotta undo this a bunch of times because of that. I'm doing a really bad job smoothing this one out. There we go. Oh, Bippy has some expressions. In most of his animations, it's very simple, but when he gets hurt, there's some goofy, exaggerated stylization on him. And even though you don't see his mouth pretty much at any point at all, when he's hurt, there's a couple of points where his mouth will at least be open. If you ever looked up fanfics of Oni plays, do those exist? I'd be surprised. I saw someone did a comic with Julian and me, which is I wasn't bothered by it. I remember we had this talk with what's it? What was it? Which video was it in? I think shipping came up, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, it's fucking stupid. You're all fucking stupid if you do that." I've always been in a position where I'm just kind of like indifferent to that sort of thing. I don't really care. So what I'd say about that comic is they put effort in, whatever. It's not off anyways, so. Ooh wee. Well, just gotta cut. Julian is our gay diaper-loving furry. What is Ding Dong? Oh, I wouldn't know in that situation because Julian is not a diaper lover. Are you aware that Bippy porn exists? Oh, of course I am. There's some well-drawn stuff of it. I'm surprised because I've said this repeatedly. Bippy was a design that it's so simple. I don't exactly know how you can sexualize it without just completely changing how the character looks, which a lot of it that is what they do. They exaggerate the body more to work it for porn. I kind of want to play I kind of want to play Sonic Adventure 1 again. I actually had a lot of fun playing it. As much as people want to rip that game to shreds, I don't care. It's a mess, but it's so much fun to, at least to Sonic. You know, Tails is fun too, because Tails can just fly anywhere. The spin dash in Sonic Adventure 1 is so much fun to just take advantage of and launch yourself off everything. It's really entertaining. Just finding any object in a level that slightly is turned upwards, using a spin dash off of it while running so you keep your momentum going into the spin dash. Just doing that, going 1,000,000 miles per hour off of a ramp and bypassing like 30 seconds of the stage. It is so much fun doing that. It also has a really good soundtrack. Sonic Adventure 1 soundtrack is really, really good. No one gives it enough credit. It's always Sonic Adventure 2. You always hear Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack. And it's a good soundtrack too, but Sonic Adventure 1 I think has a... There's so much variety there. It's all very polished up music. I think Twitch could play Sonic Adventure considering that some levels literally play themselves? No, because that's not exactly true. Ding Dong, I have a thing to say. You and some of the other TBG commentators during E3 kept saying that you think Detroit Become Human was changing from a detective game to a robot uprising simulator, but David Cage... Well, first off, I didn't actually say too much about that because I barely remembered which game that was. I got reminded at the end. But David Cage always had multiple characters with their own stories. Not meaning to defend that fuckhead, just setting string... That's the other thing I was going to say is... I'm surprised you remember that. You've been holding on to that this whole time. I barely had remembered what that game was, and even then, like, the robot uprising portion of it doesn't necessarily read as interesting as what they had showed off the first time. I'm sorry if that was troubling during the stream though. Like I said, I barely remembered what that game was. Someone else had to remind me. Why don't you like iRobot? I mean that's the problem. That sort of story has been told plenty of times over. It doesn't look too interesting. Did Corey call it I Am Robot? That sounds like Corey. Oh, Corey, I Am Robot. Anyone have the comic? It's on Tumblr. It's tag Ding Dong, I think. I think it was just corny enough for me to get a little chuckle out of it and not really mind it. I may as well admit this here, since it's going to be going up sometime soon. Well, I don't know what's going to be happening with it. We tried to play Psychonauts, and out the door, I said this. I think at the very beginning, because we're listening to the cutscene, I said, this is going to be a really hard one to do, because this game is so story-driven and all about the dialogue. I don't know how we're going to make commentary over this as we play it. And it was a very tricky one to do because of that. So, preemptive warning. And I didn't say while we're playing it, but I was a little bit disappointed by that too. I was kind of... I always have really liked a lot about Psychonauts. As a game itself, for the gameplay, it's always been very rough around the edges. I always liked it for the characters and just the world and story writing in general. But a lot of the jokes, I haven't played in the longest time. A lot of the jokes were not really landing for me. I remembered it being a little bit funnier than it was, but there's still points that was very, very entertaining. It was fun playing it again. It was great to see it again. And I forgot how fun all the character designs were. Just almost every single little NPC. Make a rhythm game with Shogun Geckomon. Listen to you. Listen to you, Mr. Funny Man. I was doing something very stupid a few months ago. I was going to see if I could do it in like a day, and I couldn't, so I held off on it. I remember actually seeing that someone made a... there were a bunch of posts like, is this what the Patreon money is going towards? Because they... Even though I had mentioned my my FA Twitter before, people were getting like all paranoid, like, this is what the money's supporting? I was like, no, this was a thing that I tried to do months ago, and I put like a day into it, and I couldn't get it done in time. I was trying to see how quick I could do something like that. I had set up a a whole thing in oh, this song is so good. I set up a whole thing in Flash to get basically like 2D joint based animation working with high res drawings that I had done. And I got it working, I got it moving and everything, but I just didn't finish it up. I didn't finish cleaning it up and everything. And because of that, people were thinking like, oh, they're just funneling the money into gay porn. No, that was just a personal thing and it fell apart. So no one has to worry about that. This is really good last stage music. I forgot Hot Shelter had good music too. Because I forgot that was even a stage until I played it again. You didn't hear that fart, by the way. Yeah, someone posted the comic. The the last two panels, make me not care. It's very silly. Oh yeah, Skydeck is a real good song. Okay. To anyone who has ever said Skydeck is not a fun level, and they say like this is the worst part of the game, Skydeck is so much fun as a level. I actually think Skydeck is a really fun level. The fact that it tilts on its side, if you spin dash as it's tilting at the one part, you can just bypass almost everything. There are so many moments in that level to just launch yourself off something as the stage is rotating. Oh my god. It's not intentional either. They want you to take your time with that level, but when you know you can just exploit everything in Sonic Adventure 1, that stage is a lot of fun to play because of it. That stage is great to just break apart. Penguin, the worst part of Sonic Adventure 1 is, yes, the bosses are a bad part. I hate navigating the egg carrier. I think it's the only... I don't even mind necessarily the overworld because talking to the NPCs can be fun. It's fun to goof around there a little bit. I mind it a little bit, but that's what I hate the most. I hate the going on the egg carrier and having to get to... If you have to backtrack at all or if you have to go to certain spots, it can be a little bit frustrating. Because they make you transform it to get up to a certain level. Cutscenes are very, very goofy, and they're a lot of fun thanks to that. I saw the one with the Sailor Moon outfit. I thought that was an okay one. I don't think you're gonna bug me with fan art, considering how stupid things I actually enjoy are. Oh yeah, Bloodlines is great. Bloodlines is a really good game. If no one's ever played it, it's probably... It might be my favorite Castlevania? I'm not sure. It's up there. I really, really like Bloodlines. Yeah, Bloodlines is the one on Genesis. It's a lot of fun. There's two different characters to play as, and they both actually have pretty fun movement options, surprisingly enough, even though it's a Castlevania game, so you wouldn't really expect that from it. Oof. Paying, you might get something out of Bloodlines. You might enjoy it. Konami was really, I don't know what it was, but Konami felt like they were trying their absolute hardest on the Sega Genesis. Because Rocket Knight Adventures is fucking fantastic. Bloodlines might be one of the best Castlevania games. I say hands down, Hardcore is the best Contra game, without a doubt. And there isn't really another one like that from the older games. They did Hardcore Uprising, which is a weird name for it because it's not really hardcore, but it is a fun game. Hardcore Uprising is actually a lot of fun. There's a running like air dashing mechanic and everything. It's a pretty fun game. Good soundtrack too, because it's Arxis doing it. I always really liked the Mega Man 7 sound font. Doing music for your game. Bippy, I'm not sure. Depending on how well Trick or Treat does, we're going to be budgeting a good amount of profit from that towards who we'd be getting for the soundtrack. We have a few people in mind. I'm not going to say names, but we have some people in mind we'd like to try to contact. No! No! The stream's been ruined. It's been compromised. It's over. It's all over. It's all over. No. Oh, my reputation's been destroyed. It was nothing. It was nothing. It was nothing. Did someone already clip it? Oh my god. Oh, my golden position of thinking I'm above everybody has been ruined because I farted. What have I become? My superiority complex that I didn't know of until recently. Oh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. Oh boy. At least it didn't smell. I I don't fart very often, but when I do, it's always very over the top and exaggerated. Anytime Julian ever hears it, he always just says like, "That wasn't real." And I just go, "That's right, Julian. It wasn't." And then he smells it. I don't eat curry all the time. Despite popular belief, we don't actually go to curry house. I was gonna say curry hut. We don't go to curry house very often. I know people always think we do. We don't. I'm sorry. Get that off. Does not look very good. Fix that up a little bit. DingDong threads will just be fart threads. I doubt it. People got actual things to complain about. And threads will be that. Why can't the threads just be frogs playing musical instruments? Why can't we keep things simple? Oh, this is a really good one. I like this song. I was glad that Julian actually likes the Jet Set Radio soundtrack a lot. I wasn't sure if he would like it, but he ended up really enjoying it. I need to pull that back a little bit, don't I? Don't I? What's better, first Jet Set Radio or second? I like both. First is for soundtrack, character design, and typically color choices. It's a much brighter, more vibrant game. But Future plays a lot better and has more there in terms of meat. But I like both a lot. I think Jet Set Radio Future is an easier recommendation to make than the first one just because of control. And also people don't like time limits. I don't mind the time limits of the first one. I think it can make it kind of fun in some stages, but I can understand people not liking it. You really need a fact. I don't... Ping, I don't know if that was a joke, because I've heard many people say that. I don't think I should make one, because that seems very silly, but I do get asked about the same things very, very often. And then I'll hear complaints saying, oh, he always goes in circles and brings up the same things all the time. That's typically why there's a lot of people who are new coming in who aren't aware of a lot of this. When was the last time you heard this song? Hey, Sandra. Yeah, I'm just doing some cleanup tonight. Not doing a good job of it either. I'm very out of the loop on this. I've not done it in a while, so I'm doing a very poor job. But that's what second passes are for. I feel like my stomach's really upset. We ate at a place earlier that it was okay, wasn't that great, and it was all right at the time. But then we were paying, and we didn't get anything fancy. We all got pretty small meals. I got spaghetti and meatballs, and it was a very small serving of spaghetti and meatballs, and it was just okay. Julian, I think, just got... What did he get? Did he just get a chicken breast, I think? Chris only got a burger. We didn't get too much. The bill was like almost... What was it? It was a ton of money, and we were all just like, what? Wait, what? How is it that much? I think it was like $80 for all of it. It was just like, what the hell happened? How is it that much? And I looked at the menu, and like everything was just overpriced, and it was just a lousy little pub, but everything was overpriced. and it was a good reminder to never go back there. It was 80 for all the food together, not separate, but still, for some shitty pub food, it's ridiculous. So, not going there again. Yeah, I guess so. That's LA. Was the beer good? We didn't even drink beer. We didn't get anything really to drink either. It's just very expensive. I gotta say, it feels nice just doing work on stream. I really do want to just stream more actual productive work. I'm probably gonna be doing that more often than not now. I really just want to be working on stuff again. Played AM2R. AM2R was very, very good. I really enjoyed it. And as I was playing it and everything too, I was just thinking to myself, like, Nintendo was never going to be able to do something like this. They don't have this sort of understanding with this franchise that they're going to be able to produce a game that has gameplay like this, actually provide a really solid challenge and everything, and just feel really great. There's so much love poured into that thing, and then they, of course, filed the whole takedown of it. And then they announced this year that they're doing their own Metroid 2 remake, which a lot of people are super excited, but I think I already just played the best Metroid 2 remake you're ever going to be able to do. I don't think Nintendo is going to outdo that in any way. People were saying it looked very good, but I'm just, I don't know. After playing that, I don't feel like it's going to be a thing too special. How about Metroid Prime 4? I heard that's not even being... Because Retro's not involved, and already... I'm pretty sure a lot of the guys who worked on that anyways aren't at Retro anymore. Didn't some of them also just branch off because they're working with 343 on Halo and everything? Point is, though, it's not going to be the original team. It's this much later. I'm worried it's like a Nintendo in-house team or something. I don't exactly trust it out the door. It would be nice too, but it's also confusing because I remember they were trying to say like, oh yeah, Metroid Prime is not canon anymore now when Other M came out, and they were acting like, yeah, Other M is our focus. This is the direction we want to take Metroid. This is it now, and Prime didn't happen. Other M's a mess. Nintendo for years doesn't even understand why people didn't like Other M either. They've like talked about it in interviews and everything too. They don't seem to understand why people didn't like Other M. I don't really have much faith in either of those new Metroid games. I'm sure at most they'll be okay. I don't think they're gonna be bad, but I'm not like wildly excited. At least they're doing something with the franchise again. 2 games, no less. Oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. Enjoy this nice Daytona USA song.
Turn that light off for a comfier streaming experience.
Okay. Oh, I was opening a can of soda, sorry. Oh, I've seen that one. I don't know who drew that one. They did a really good job with that one. I don't know who drew that. See, Tom posted some new Nightmare Cup screenshots. I saw the ones like I posted before. Is there more? I've already seen the game prior, but it's nice seeing it all assembled and put together finally. It's very, very nice looking. I'm actually sad about that. I'm hoping they can keep that level of detail because considering there's all this 2D art and everything, it's cool how they're doing it too. Tom created a whole thing for the mouth movements, so characters will talk and be able to have different expressions and everything while animating, which is really, really nice. I think I didn't actually, because I remember Corey was telling me about the little lip sync thing. I never actually tried it before. I guess it's uploaded in Newgrounds. But he was describing it in a way that I typically have done that too when I've worked on games and I do that sort of thing. Is that you just make a timeline and you put some different identifiers on the timeline for like, oh, swap this graphic to this. Like you just put in like a number or a value of some sort and it'll go through a timeline and swap graphics around to make it look like fluid mouth movement. It's a very easy way of doing it. I like when it's properly synced up too. It's why it's a nice thing to do. It looks really nice in Nightmare Cops, and I remember that bugged the hell out of me is that Guilty Gear wanted to show off with its sprites that they could have like, oh look, the mouths are moving when they talk. But what they did was on all the sprites in the game, if it's a pose where they're going to be talking, if you break apart the game's files, the sprite in the top left, they have all the different mouths that they'll use. So those don't get rendered in game; those get cut off. And they'll swap. They'll overlay those mouths over the character, but they have them on a loop, so they'll go wow 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 no matter what they say, and that always bugged me a lot. I always actually got bugged by that because it's like, okay, the attention is there that their mouth is moving now, but it's not moving properly, and I think that's bugging me more than the fact that I'm not seeing their mouth movement. That was a personal thing, though. Because I think overall it probably is nicer that they have mouth movement like that. But Tom set up this whole thing for Nightmare Cops that looks really good in practice for just having proper mouth movement and expressions and everything. It's not even a flaw. I don't think that's a flaw to Guilty Gear. That's a personal thing. That's a completely personal thing that I feel weirded by that. Because I think that's probably objective that that's actually a good thing that they do that. I don't know why I feel weird about it. I think it's just if I ever see that sort of... You know what I get reminded of? Does anyone remember Bonus Stage? Does anyone remember that? What's his name now? It's a Cartoon Drive-Thru's his channel now. I was gonna say Matt Watson. It was Matt Wilson, wasn't it? Wasn't that his name? He Bonus Stage dates back to like what 2005 or something. It's ancient. It was a very, very old Flash cartoon series that probably has the most impressive run I can think of. Was it 87? Did he do 87 of those or something? It was crazy. It was just one guy doing all that by himself. He did Flash games and everything too, which were very rough around the edges, but one person was doing all this, so it was impressive. He was doing music and everything too. He was doing a lot. So at the time, it was really impressive seeing someone just pulling all of that off on early internet. But he got everybody starting to do that, and that was like his shortcut. It's why he was able to do so much with bonus stage, was that the way that was animated and looked and everything, there wasn't much put into it. He had a movie clip that was just a bunch of random mouth movements, and it's not even just the mouth opening and closing, which would have looked okay. It was all these different random movements, and it looked really, really bad, and I hated seeing it because of that, because they go like they'd stick their tongue out randomly on some of them. It looked really bad, and it was like the mouth was progressively shrinking before it looped over. It did not look good, but everyone started doing that. Every animator started doing that, and that's what always irritated me, was seeing that. I think that's why the Guilty Gear one kind of bugged me, as I get reminded of that. But he's come really far in terms of animation. He's come really, really far. It's crazy to see some of those people are still around, because that was on Keen Tunes, if people remember Keen Tunes, and also on Keen Tunes was Space Tree, and Space Tree, I even realized this until recently, because I always liked Ed Atlin a lot, and I was going through his channel, I was going back through old videos last year, I saw Space Tree, I was like, how the fuck did I not recognize that? Ed Atlin did Space Tree. How the hell did I not recognize that out the door? 'Cause Space Tree is ancient. Space Tree goes way back. Sandra, did you not know that? Yeah, he did Space Tree. I didn't know that. If you go back through his uploads, he was actually trying to do it again. He made an attempt at doing like a new Space Tree. That's one of his earliest uploads on his Ed Atlin channel. I didn't know that was him. I really didn't know that was him. I should have recognized it, because it's like the same kind of style with like the tutu animations he did and everything. He did Moonphase. Moonphase was the clue in, for sure, obviously. But this was before Moonphase. I don't know what yeah, I really love Ed Atlin a lot. I really like his stuff. It's a lot of fun. I don't think he's animated anything in a while. I think he's still doing comics. Oh man, am I getting another one of these? I've been getting like calluses on the side of my fingers now. I think from just streaming for so long. Yeah, I hope he's working on stuff that he likes to do. He's still posting like stuff to Twitter. Julian and I were sad he hasn't done an animation in a while though, because we really like his stuff. Why this keeps happening. Oh, that's a good back-to-back right there. Because, what's that game called? Atrian Odyssey? I think it was 3. A lot of its music tries to sound like the, Yamaha, what's it? The Genesis sound font tries to sound like that. And all that music is really good. And then this is actually on the Sega Genesis. This is the sequel to Battlemania, and is probably the best Sega Genesis soundtrack I can think of. They really take advantage of the hardware, and it sounds great. That's it. Thank you. I don't have the numbers memorized. There's also like a certain charm to this game. I don't know what it is. The girl that you play in it, she's wearing she just has like very casual attire on. She's just wearing like a t-shirt with some shorts, sneakers, and she has like I think she has like robot armor on just her arms. Like she's not wearing anything excessive or anything. She looks very normal. Like she's just dressed very casually. But you're flying around, like she has, does she have a jetpack on? I forget how she looked in it. But something about that's fun. I don't know. Just very casual attire while flying around with an actual machine gun. Because it wasn't like a laser gun or anything, it was just an actual machine gun. Something about that's kind of fun. You know what? I'll say that. Yeah, someone just said I like LucasArts adventure games mouth movements. I kind of do too, and they're not typically synced up. But in a lot of those games, they go about a certain way that it doesn't feel as bothersome. I think part of what helps that is that it's at a much more limited frame rate, as opposed to it being something very, very smooth, so it stands out more. I never got to play Full Throttle Remastered, because I actually liked Full Throttle a lot. I was curious to see how that turned out. Speaking of good final level music, X3 soundtrack is all over the place, but I really like the song. Especially how it looks, because it's like lit up with all the stuff indoors, even though like it's very dark inside. Nighttime skies in the background and everything. I really like how it looks. I really like levels like that. Sonic CD's final stages. What is it? It's not called, I don't want to say it's Metal Madness. Is that what it was called? Whatever those final areas are called in Sonic CD. I really like the backdrops there. Not in like the past or future, just the current time. Because it's very dark, but then there's all these neon lights and everything in the background with machinery and all of that. It looks really nice. I always really appreciated that about it, and I think it suits the final area pretty well. Here's another good song from a game that was not good in any way, shape, or form. I am going on record saying this. Wild Woody might be the worst game I have ever played. If we're doing it by the standard of the console, because people, I've said this too, a lot of Atari games you could easily say are just the worst games. Even if they were enjoyed at the time, a lot of Atari games just do not hold up. Wild Woody was a Sega CD game. I think it was 1994 it came out. The level of bad that game is at, not to mention it was a Sega in-house team. It's inexcusable how bad it is. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And somehow playing the physical copy of it compared to playing the emulated one, it's even buggier on the actual console. No, there's some fun stuff on the Sega CD. There's some actual fun stuff on the Snatcher's. Snatcher's on other things too, but a funny joke name. Gonna need to pepper it on a little harder than that. Make a joke about the What's the thing to make a joke about? Whining. Make a joke about whining all the time. That's probably the easiest one. What else? God, that was loud. Holy shit. People say superiority complex a lot. Oh, this is a good one. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 had a really good soundtrack. As much as people shit on it, I think it has a fun soundtrack. And songs like this, as much as people say like, oh, jazz music, you get ones like this where it's completely inoffensive. It's nice. Oh my fucking god! I didn't even think about that because I haven't watched the Dragon Ball Z fighting game footage yet. Oh my god, what's the soundtrack like? Pangolin, are you there? What was the soundtrack like? Was it like the actual like anime's music, like old Dragon Ball Z music? Because if it sounds like that, that would be so fucking good. Oh my god, that would perfectly. That'd be really good to hear in a fighting game. That'd be really, really good. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. If that's what the soundtrack for that game is like, that is going to be just perfect. Because that means it's not just pretty to look at, and it's not going to just be a lot of fun to play. It's going to have really good music, too, if they style it after. I don't know what Super sounds like, because I haven't watched Super. I know there's all the conflict with the composer for Dragon Ball Z lifting music, plagiarizing, so I don't know what's gonna happen. But if they try to do the soundtrack like how Dragon Ball Z's music was, oh my god, if they had like a Jam Project song for an opening too. Oh my god. I'm much more excited all of a sudden. I already was very excited for that game, but now I'm much more excited.